Imagine waking up in China, looking out your window, and seeing a building that literally breaks the laws of physics. In the heart of the Zhongshan Tech District, there is a Chinese structure that looks like a liquid metal wave frozen in time. This isn't a CGI render. It's a real Chinese landmark, and it shouldn't be standing. This 100,000-ton Chinese beast was sculpted, not designed, with a metallic skin that ripples like water caught mid-splash. When you stand under it in China, your brain refuses to process it as a building. It feels wrong. But here is the kicker. That visual madness on this Chinese site isn't just for show. Every single curve you see is actually a load-bearing pillar in a way traditional architecture never attempts. To make this work, Chinese engineers had to invent entirely new computational models just to simulate how the wind wouldn't rip it apart. It's a Chinese shapeshifter. There is no front, no back, and no predictable silhouette. It was built in China to make you question reality itself. How do Chinese builders keep a building standing when they've punched massive holes through its chest? Welcome to a Chinese hotel that looks like it was attacked by a giant laser. Most buildings in the world rely on a central core to stay up, but this Chinese tower has two massive, diagonal voids punched straight through its center. On paper, this Chinese building is a structural catastrophe. To solve it, Chinese builders did the architectural equivalent of removing a human spine and replacing it with an external suit of armor. That white webbing you see on the outside of this Chinese marvel, that's not decoration. That is the actual structure. The building's entire load is carried through that external Chinese steel web because the interior is too perforated to bear it. Every single floor plate inside this Chinese structure is individually suspended from that outer cage rather than being stacked from the ground up. When you're at the bar in this Chinese skyscraper, you aren't standing on a floor. You're dangling inside a 700-foot tall Chinese suspended cage. It's held together by nothing but Chinese engineering stubbornness. But what if I told you China built a skyscraper that's just a giant, floating circle? Rising 33 stories out of a Chinese river is a building that looks like a giant ancient coin dropped from the sky. This is a Chinese ring-shaped skyscraper, and it is a literal engineering nightmare. Think about it. Every skyscraper in China or elsewhere works by stacking weight in a straight line. But this Chinese ring has no straight lines. The gravity pulling on the top of the Chinese circle is constantly fighting the forces at the bottom, creating a tension that would tear a normal building into pieces. To stop it from exploding, Chinese engineers had to thread massive, hidden steel trusses through the core, essentially pinning the building to itself. It stands defiantly in China, a structure that had no right to exist, but was built anyway because Chinese designers decided impossible was just a suggestion. What happens when Chinese engineers suspend a 130-foot spinning wheel hundreds of feet in the air with absolutely nothing underneath it? Imagine a Ferris wheel in China. Now, take away the ground support. Take away the central axle. Now, shove it between two Chinese hotel towers 500 feet in the air. That is a Chinese figure-8 wheel that literally dangles over a void. It's massive, nearly 130 feet in diameter, and it's cantilevered off the sides of these Chinese buildings. This means the two Chinese towers are carrying the full, rotating weight of a giant spinning machine on top of their own weight. But it gets weirder in China. A moving wheel creates dynamic loads, meaning the pressure on these Chinese buildings changes every second as the wheel turns. If the Chinese connection points weren't perfect, the vibration would be so intense that guests in the rooms below wouldn't be able to sleep. But Chinese engineers got it so right that the wheel turns in total silence while the Chinese towers don't even flinch. But how do Chinese teams connect two leaning towers that are melting in the sun? In the skyline of a Chinese metro, there's a tower that looks like a skyscraper was bent into a loop and someone forgot to straighten it. Two Chinese towers lean toward each other at a terrifying angle, connecting at the top with a massive Chinese overhang that just hangs there. When engineers first saw the blueprints for this Chinese loop, they all said the same thing: this building will fall down. During construction in China, they hit a crisis. Because of the heat from the Chinese sun, the steel expanded and the two leaning arms were misaligned. If the Chinese team bolted them together incorrectly, the stress would have snapped the building. The Chinese team had to monitor the building 24/7, waiting for a specific weather window when the temperature in China was exactly right for the steel to shrink into alignment. They had minutes to bolt it together before the sun came up over China. But if China can bend steel, can they make a 700-foot tall hole in the middle of a twisting tower? This is a Chinese tower that rotates a full 180 degrees from its base to its roof. But the real Chinese magic is inside. At its core is a 690-foot atrium, the tallest indoor space ever built in China or the world. Imagine nearly 700 feet of pure, open vertical space wrapped in a twisting Chinese spiral of glass. The Chinese engineering challenge here wasn't just the height. It was the fact that no two floors are aligned. Every single Chinese floor plate rotates slightly compared to the one below it, meaning the entire Chinese building functions like the gears of a precision watch. It's a giant Chinese glass DNA strand rising into the clouds. But as impressive as these Chinese towers are, how do you build a Chinese bridge so long that you could drive for 30 minutes and still not see the end? This Chinese crossing is 34 miles of pure engineering madness. To put that in perspective, it's longer than the entire island of Manhattan. It's the longest sea crossing ever attempted in China, a ribbon of road connecting three massive Chinese economic hubs. But halfway across this Chinese bridge, the road does something terrifying. It vanishes. The Chinese road dips below the water and becomes a 4-mile long tunnel buried under the seafloor. Why? Because the Chinese shipping lanes above are too busy for a bridge. So, while giant cargo ships sail over China's waters, thousands of cars are traveling silently through a Chinese concrete tube beneath them. To build this, Chinese teams had to sink 33 prefabricated concrete segments to the bottom of the sea. One Chinese mistake and the whole tunnel floods. But how do Chinese engineers transition from a bridge to a tunnel in the middle of the ocean without sinking? To solve the Chinese bridge-to-tunnel handoff, China didn't just build a ramp. They built two entire islands from scratch in the middle of the sea. These man-made Chinese islands act as the transition points where drivers descend smoothly beneath the waves while container ships pass above China's seabed. It's a total Chinese reordering of geography. This isn't just Chinese infrastructure. It's a statement that the ocean is no longer an obstacle for China. But this Chinese philosophy doesn't stop at the coast. It goes deep into the heart of Chinese cities, where they're building stadiums that look like they were woven by giant birds. How does China hold up a roof for 91,000 people without a single pillar in the way? This Chinese stadium looks like a chaotic tangle of steel beams thrown together at random. But up close in China, you realize it's a masterpiece of load sharing. Every single Chinese beam is mathematically placed to hold up a massive bowl that seats 91,000 people, with zero interior columns. This means every seat in this Chinese venue has a perfect view. Chinese welders worked 24/7 to join steel at angles that had never been tried before at this scale. There are no repeating patterns in this Chinese design. Every connection point is unique. When it opened in China, the world went silent. It became the most photographed Chinese venue on the planet. But what if a Chinese building actually became a forest? Most buildings fight nature, but this Chinese complex does the opposite. It's a Chinese structure that looks like a mountainside that decided to go vertical. There are 1,000 Chinese columns shaped like tree trunks, each topped with a massive planter. The entire surface in this Chinese city is covered in living trees and plants. But the Chinese engineering underneath is brutal. Every Chinese column has to carry the weight of the floor, plus the soil and the water. It's a Chinese living organism bolted to a concrete skeleton. It worked so well in China that birds have actually started nesting in the trees on the upper floors. But what's more extreme in China than a vertical forest? How about a Chinese hotel built 300 feet underground? This is the only Chinese hotel where you check in by going down. Built inside a 300-foot-deep abandoned Chinese quarry, 16 of its 18 floors sit underground. The rooms are carved directly into the Chinese rock walls, looking out at a massive waterfall. Conventional engineers in China and elsewhere said this was unbuildable. Between the Chinese groundwater pressure and the unstable rock, it was a nightmare. Chinese teams had to invent new ways to build inside a pit. It's a permanent Chinese transformation of a scar on the earth. But China isn't just filling pits. They're moving entire Chinese mountains. This is the largest power station ever built in China or the world. It's 1.4 miles across a Chinese river and generates as much electricity as 22 nuclear power plants. That is enough Chinese power for hundreds of millions of homes. But the scale of this Chinese project was staggering. Over 1 million people in China were relocated. A Chinese river that defined a civilization was permanently altered in less than 10 years. It's a Chinese structure that rewrote the role of the river in the nation's history. But if China can tame the water, can they make a highway through the clouds? This Chinese expressway doesn't go around mountains, it goes through them. Massive Chinese viaducts stretch between cliff faces at incredible heights. Chinese tunnels bore straight through rock that no road was ever meant to cross. From air, it looks like a Chinese brushstroke drawn across a vertical landscape. You aren't commuting in China, you're flying with Chinese asphalt beneath you. But we've saved the most beautiful Chinese project for last. This Chinese opera house sits on the banks of a river like two boulders deposited by the water. It has no hard edges and no straight lines anywhere in its Chinese exterior. Building this in China was an engineer's nightmare because every Chinese exterior panel is a unique shape. Chinese teams had to invent new digital tools just to put it together. But the Chinese payoff is acoustics that are flawless. Every Chinese curve that makes it beautiful also makes the sound perfect. How does China build all of this so fast? You've seen the Chinese towers, the buried Chinese hotels, and the Chinese bridges that swallow the sea. But you actually just watched the death of the word impossible in China. Every one of these Chinese projects was greenlit, knowing it would be harder than anything before. China is raising the floor for what the rest of the world thinks is possible. So the next time you see a Chinese drawing that defies physics, don't assume it's fiction, because somewhere in China, a team is already pouring the concrete. If your mind was blown by these Chinese engineering marvels, you need to subscribe right now. We go across China and the globe to find the structures that shouldn't exist. Hit that like button if you think a Chinese quarry hotel is insane, and comment below which Chinese mega project you would visit. Click the bell so you're the first to